Okay, so let's. Good morning, everybody. I think I'm happy to see all of us getting back into the new semester, 2022 semester 1. Okay, and for today's, this will be on the process modeling and optimization, CEE 3006. Okay, and tomorrow we will have another lecture on the process control and optimizations. I hope all of you are well, okay, and good wherever you are. I'm not too sure wherever you are at the moment. Okay. First, I would like to start to get knowing everybody in a bit more depth before I start going into the unit outline, going into the week 1 slides, and then also tell a little bit more into the details as to why we bother to go into learning this process modeling and optimizations, and also what is the applications of the process modeling and optimizations in as a chemical engineer, okay, in industry or in research. Okay, so I would like to start with this. So I would like you to basically, after this one by one, turn on your camera and then put up your mic, introduce yourself, what is your name, and then where are you from? For example, I want to know where you are, and then what semester are you? So for example, if you are on the 5th semester, you can tell 5th semester. If you're on the 6th semester, you can tell you are from 6th semester. And then you can tell a bit of yourself if you want. And then so far, what is your hobby? And then what is the unit that you like so far in chemical engineering? For example, you can just mention 1 or 2 unit. Okay, so I would like to start with myself. Okay, so my name is Jaka Sunarso. So some of you already know me because you took transfer phenomena from last semesters. I'm Indonesian. I originally come from, my hometown is Jakarta. Okay, I did my first degree in Indonesia in Surabaya, and then I did my master and my PhD in Queensland, University of Queensland. Okay, so my master was by coursework. My PhD was in the area of mixed ionic electronic conducting membranes for high temperature oxygen separation. Okay, then I did my postdoc 2 years in Deakin University in Melbourne. After that, I went to Canada for 2 years, another 2 years before coming here to Swinburne, Sarawak in 2016. So I've been teaching this process modeling and transfer phenomena since 2016. Okay, sometimes I also co-lecture a process control. Okay, and then I also become a unit convener for the final year research project 1. And my hobby is writing paper. Okay, if I have time, I like to exercise. I did some cross trainers, and then back then when I was in Australia, I used to go to swimming pool to swim. Okay, and in chemical engineering, the subject that I really like is actually transfer phenomena and programming using MATLAB. Okay, those two are the thing that I find is something it fits with what I'm teaching right now. Okay, so let's start with Anupaja. Anupaja, can you introduce yourself? Turn on your camera and turn on your mic and introduce. No need to worry too much. Don't worry. I mean, we are all. This is just an informal. Even for me to get to know you better. Okay. Anupaja, are you there?
Yes,
Hello.
sir. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
Hi, sir. Can you see me?
Yes, lovely.
Hello everyone. Hi sir. My name is Anupaja Esundidaya. So you can call me Esundi. So I'm in my third year. I'm taking chemical engineering as my major. So I think that's it.
So Anupaja, why you take chemical engineering?
I like to learn about the manufacturing. I want to do cosmetics initially and food. So I thought this would be a good major.
Okay. So what is your hobby? What did you
Sorry,
like?
sir?
What is your hobby? What did you like to do beside when you are not learning?
I like dancing.
Oh, nice. Then what is the unit that you like in chemical engineering so far, among all that you took so far?
I like chemistry units.
Chemistry, yeah. Okay, nice meeting you, Anupaja,
Nice
and
to
thank
meet
you
you,
for
sir.
turning
Thank
on
you.
your camera and for introducing yourself.
Thank
So
you,
next
sir.
one, Clarence. We want to see you, Clarence. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Why cannot open this one? Hello, can you see me?
Yes.
Yes. Hello everyone. My name is Clarence Lau Ifan. I'm now in my Sem 5, year 3 of chemical engineering courses, and my favorite unit is the fluid motion.
What's that? Your favorite unit, Clarence?
Yes.
What's your favorite unit again?
The fluid motions.
Oh, fluid motions. Fluid mechanics or fluid motion? Fluid motion.
Fluid mechanic. Fluid mechanic. Sorry.
So why do you take chemical engineering, Clarence?
To serve the state and country. Yeah.
To serve the state and country, on anything related with the chemical reactor or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, you're in Sarawak, in Kuching. Your hometown is in here.
Yeah, and I originally from Salike, a town near Cebu, and I've currently stay in Kuching. Yeah.
Okay, nice meeting you, Clarence.
Yes.
Anupaja, where are you from, Anupaja? From Sri Lanka, is it? Anupaja, I forgot to ask you before. You from where, Anupaja? Sri Lanka, is it?
Yes, I'm from Sri Lanka.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Clarence. You can turn off your camera if you want. Nice meeting you, Clarence.
Yes.
James, how are you today, James? Is it possible that we see your face and you introduce us a little bit, where you are from, what is your hobby, what is the unit that you like so far among all the unit you took, and then your why you take chemical engineering?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly, James.
My name is James Sio Chaifa, and you can call me James. And I'm now currently a third year in Bachelor of Chemical Engineering. And my hobby is playing video games and watching anime. Yeah. And the favorite subject in chemical engineering that I like is chemistry. And the reason I chose chemical engineering is because I'm interested in chemical manufacturing process. Yeah. Anything else I forgot?
Fair enough. Thanks so much, James,
Okay.
for sharing with us. Okay, next, Juliana. We'd like to see you, Juliana.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you clearly, Juliana.
So, hello everyone. My name is Juliana, and you can call me Juliana. So I'm in my third year, first semester of chemical engineering program, and I'm a local, which means I'm from Kuching, Sarawak. So my hobby is swimming, and my favorite unit is chemical engineering. Sorry,
unit,
engineering chemistry. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Dr. Bazul, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Why you take chemical engineering?
Because I like to do lab works.
Oh, okay. Lab work. So meaning not simulation work, not MATLAB or ASP.HYSYS. No?
Okay, I think that's all from me.
Thank you so much, Juliana, for introducing and sharing with us.
Okay, thank you.
Next, Chising. Chising, are you there?
I am Liao Zixing, and I'm from Bintulu, Sarawak. This is my third year and Sem 5 in chemical engineering. The reason I take chemical engineering because I like physics.
You like what?
Physics.
Oh, really? You like physics? Oh, good, good. And then the unit that you like so far, Chising, among all the one that you have taken.
Thermodynamics, I think.
Oh, okay. By Dr. JJ. Oh, okay, good.
Thank you.
I think we will fit each other very well, Chising. Huh? I like physics as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Chising, for introducing and sharing with us. Michael, you're next. Are you there, Michael?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you don't have camera, then it's fine. Just introduce yourself. Should be fine. No problem.
Okay.
Yes, don't be afraid of anything, Michael. We are all friends in here, okay? So just speak up.
My name is Michael Wong Toyang. My hobby is playing games and just watching anime. My favorite part of the course is chemistry, and yeah, did I miss anything?
Where are you from, Michael?
Oh, I'm from Cebu.
Okay, nice city, Michael. Nice city.
Yeah.
I went there, I think, last December.
Oh, I see.
Thank you, Michael. Taha, we want to see you. Introduce yourself, Taha.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Is it possible to see your handsome face, Taha?
Yes, sir. Just a second. Hi. Can you see me, sir?
Yes, I can see you clearly, Taha.
Okay. Okay, sir. I'm Taha. I'm from Pakistan. I live in Kuwait with my family. This is my third year, first semester. And I'm doing chemical engineering because I find food production very interesting.
Say it again. What is that? Reproduction? Say it again, Taha.
I find food production very interesting, and the reaction engineering was my most favorite course in this. Okay, my favorite hobby is to do video editing and to run. Okay.
Why you take chemical? You already explained that one. What is that? The unit that you like the most, Taha?
Reaction engineering.
Oh, okay. I suppose you took it with Dr. Siti Salwa before, isn't it? Okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Taha.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to know you. Now, Muhammad Usman, you tell us how do you prefer to be called, huh? Because we have to Muhammad in here, so I'm not too sure if you will be okay if I call you Usman. Hi, Muhammad Usman, are you there? Muhammad.
Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can we see your face as well, Muhammad Usman?
Yeah, all right. Hi, can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. A bit dark, but can see.
All right. Hi, my name is Mohammad Usman. I'm also from Pakistan, and I'm currently in my third year, first semester.
Why you take chemical engineering, and then which unit that you like so far among all the units you took?
I think my favorite unit is also reaction engineering because of the projects and the teamwork I had experienced in that unit. And I like chemical engineering because maybe because in childhood I used to watch Breaking Bad, that's why.
Fair enough. Well, Usman, where are you actually at the moment?
I'm currently in Pakistan right now, but I live in Kuwait. I'm in a vacation in Pakistan.
Same like
Yeah.
Taha. How do you prefer me to call you, Muhammad Usman?
You can call me Usman.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you so much, Usman.
Okay.
Next one, we would like to hear from Selena. Please, Selena.
Hi everyone. My name is Selena and I'm from Kuching. And I'm currently in year 3 of chemical engineering. And my favorite subject so far is engineering materials. I didn't open my camera, sorry.
No, it's fine, it's fine. It's fine.
And
now we can see you.
And I'm taking chemical engineering because I'm interested in cosmetic industry too. Yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you so much, Selena. Next one, Sakya. Sakya, can we see you? We want to hear from you.
Hello.
Hi, Sakya.
Hello, everyone.
We can see you.
You can call me Shakya, and I'm from Sri Lanka. And currently, I'm in my year 3, Sem 2. I like watching anime and reading. My favorite unit so far would also be reaction engineering. And the reason why I chose chemical engineering is because I'm interested in the petrochemical industry. That's all from me.
Fair enough, Sakya. Nice to see you. Thank you for turning on your camera.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, Tiffany. How are you doing, Tiffany?
Hi everyone. My name is Tiffany.
We can't see you, Tiffany. The camera is not turned on or what?
Hi everyone. My name is Tiffany. I'm currently in the 5th semester. My favorite unit is Introduction to Chemical Engineering Design. I take chemical engineering because I want to learn more about process design.
Well done. This is your unit, Tiffany. I think this is where you will learn a lot of mathematical modeling, but the real design you will do it in the process plan design. Okay, that one is called an integrated design project. You will took it on the first year after you really combine everything that you get from your previous years. Okay, next, you see.
Hi, my name is Yusi. I'm from Kuching. This is my third year, first semester, and my favorite subject so far is Intro to Chemical Engineering Design, and I took chemical engineering because it's a versatile engineering major. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Yusi.
Thank you.
Nguang Yo. Next. or probably the last one. I'm not too sure.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Okay, my name is Wong Yu, and I'm from Cebu. You can just call me Wong. My hobby is like to playing video games and watching animes. The favorite subject is chemistry, and why I choose chemical engineering because I like to study chemistry during my secondary school. Yeah, that's all from me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Wong Yo, and thank you everybody for this session. It's actually taking a bit of time, but this is quite proper because can you imagine after 2 years of online teaching like this is really quite, there seems to be no personal touch at all. So that's why I would like to know you in person much better, because not only I handle 2 of the units, but also I think you also need to know each other better as well. This is why I spent like about 20 to 30 minutes for these sessions. Okay. Right now, okay, in the beginning, what I want to talk about is basically go through the overview of the process modeling before I go into the week 1 slide. I will go a little bit faster into the week 1 slide, and then after that, at the end, I will go into my recent research project with one of your senior that really telling you about what the process modeling can do basically. So we have posted this unit outline into the Canvas. Okay, if you go into the Canvas, you will see that you have these things in here. You put you see from your student view, probably I need to click on the student view. Okay, always keep track of your announcement. Okay, and then you go into your modules in here to check what are the available things in here. Okay, and then this one is whatever that is opened in here. Okay, you want to check. A good practice is to always look at this at what we want to cover in the lecture. Okay, so I assume all of you have access to this Canvas unit already, right? So in summary, this process modeling is the unit is called CE 3006. It's about process modeling and optimization. The name implies process modeling and optimization, but actually the major element, I would say 90% of this unit is covering the process modeling part, not the optimization. The optimization we give it as one week material, but we don't really assess that thing, but rather just to give you an introduction of what optimization is, because it is impossible to cram all the materials for the process modeling and optimizations into 12 teaching weeks in here, right? For the total contact hours, you have about 6 hours per week, so 3 hours of lecture, okay, and then 3 hours of tutorials basically, okay, and then recommended 7 hours of independent study per week, right? The prerequisites, all of you must have passed the engineering mathematics or introduction to chemical engineering design and engineering mathematics. Why? Because you need to have an idea of the mass and energy balance or a simple calculations for chemical engineering. Okay, actually process modeling involve a mathematical that are a level higher, because you are also exposed to not only the mathematics but also to the numerical methods as well. So you are assumed to have the knowledge on the calculus and mass and energy balances. Okay, as you know that our chemical engineering point is unique only to Sarawak, because in Swinburne Hawthorne we don't have a chemical engineering program. Okay, the mode of the delivery this semester will be blended. So lecture will be online, but anytime you need time with me, you can always text me. Okay, I'm happy to be texted if it is urgent only, but don't expect me to be to reply you promptly. Okay, if alternatively you can also email me, and then you can meet me in my office. My office is at A401. Okay, so near the chancellery there is another office dedicated for the research, School of Research. So that's where I am sitting. I'm sitting at A401. Okay. So the aim of this unit is to provide the student with the skills in the derivation of mathematical modeling, as well as numerical analysis and optimization, based on the application of conservation laws to various chemical engineering processes. So I would say that the introduction to chemical engineering is giving you a little bit of taste into the conservation laws, but on the macroscopic scale. Okay, if you go to transfer phenomena, you're gonna go into the microscopic scale. For process modeling, we cover both the macroscopic and the microscopic scale, but we don't really go into the detail. Okay, unlike the introductions or unlike the transfer phenomena. Transfer phenomena, you go into the microscopic scale, but you go much more detail, and it covers basically the not only the momentum balance, but also the energy balance and also the mass balance as well. Okay, so these are the unit learning outcomes. When you finish this unit, you should be able to do these 6 things in here. Okay, and then the PO in here is related with the Malaysian Engineering Accreditation PO. This is basically a program outcome. Okay, I will not go through these things in detail. You can look at it for yourself because it has been given in your canvas in the syllabus. Okay, so the communication skill are also important in here. So that as we go through this unit, you will develop your communication skill, teamwork skill, and digital literacies. So these are the content. The content are the concept of modeling, distributed parameter philosophy of numerical simulation, numerical solution of a system of linear and nonlinear algebraic equations, ODE, PDE, optimization basics, and all these things will be covered, but we will not go too much into these things, right? These are the attributes, the program outcomes that are covered for this unit of study. Okay, these are the program outcomes for this unit of study. I will handle your lecture, okay, and also your test 1, test 2, and project 1. Okay, Miss Chiachi is your tutor. She will help you with your tutorials in the Aspen HYSYS. Okay, and also she will deal with your project 2 as well. Okay, so the lectures, we have tutorials, and in the case where there is no pandemic, we used to have a computer laboratory for MATLAB. So because project 1 is heavily based on the MATLAB and it accounts for 30%, I will open this this opportunity for you guys to contact me, even though through WhatsApp or through email, or we can, if you are in campus, I'm happy to meet you in campus on the computer laboratory to clear up your doubts on the MATLAB programming, how to run the MATLAB if you have difficulties, for those that are coming to campus already for the semesters. The tutorials is hybrid, but that depends on Miss Lai. Okay, so Miss Lai probably will record the same way that I'm recording this this lecture video. Okay, note that although it is not really implied, although it is not really, we cannot really check on that, but it's implied that you are doing your independent learning of about 7 hours per week in here. Okay, now the week by week schedule. The first week will be introduction to chemical process modeling. I will go a little bit faster in this week, so I will cover both week 1 and half of the week 2, because next week I will have to go to KL. I have an event with Petronas, so I will not be able to give you a lecture on Monday, but I will give you the lecture on Thursday. I think, if not wrong, Thursday. The same like the process control. So we will basically cover a different type of models. So based on how the parameter is classified, you can classify into a steady state law model, dynamic law model, steady state distributed model, or dynamic distributed model. So what's the difference between law model and the distributed model? So the law model, we will go and cover it later as we go, but basically the distributed model is something that a property that varies with coordinates. So if in reality, for example, if you see that we have let's say a bar, okay, then there is a heat transfer. Then because there is a conductions from this side to this side, okay, that means that the temperature will vary as a function of the coordinate. Okay, now if the material is something like this, okay, then it varies with one dimension. But imagine if you have a cube or you have a rectangular dimensions of the material, then the temperature may vary as a function of 2 coordinates or 3 coordinates. So that's called distributed model. LAM model is the easiest model because if you imagine that you have a continuous stir tank reactor, you mix up everything within that particular tank so that the property within that particular tank is uniform and equal to one value. So that's called LAM model. Okay, so LAM model assume that there is no variation in the property with space. So that's why it is easy. Okay, and as we vary, then we categorize each of this model into two separate model. Steady state implies that there is no variations with respect to time. Okay, but in reality, of course, there will be no such easy thing. Everything will vary with time. So that's why we have a dynamic as well. So dynamic implies that there is a change with time. Process control and measurements will cover a lot of this dynamic stuff because process control is all about changing with time. Okay, so we will talk more about it in more detail tomorrow. Now, the thing that you need to take note into your agenda is the project one distributions. I think I will open it soon. As soon as the group project is open, then I will just let this project one distribution. I will distribute project one myself based on the compositions of the team. So those that have a better track record will get a higher cognitive problems, okay, than their respective peers that I think that probably with the lower track record, okay. Then assignment one we will have a take-home test, or what I call as a take-home assignment, on the 4th week, okay. And then on the 7th week in here, so bear in mind that in the Canvas with our unit outline we have a difference. So in here we put it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tuition week, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then tuition week in here. Okay, so I will not stop the lecture and the tutorials on the tuition week, but I will not put any assessments on the tuition week. Okay, in the Canvas it will be ordered as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there will be a slightly difference in terms of the ordering of this thing that you need to take a note on. Okay, so in here we split into 2 parts because it's difficult for me to just put it into one part. So for steady state, I split it into 2 parts. Okay, but for project one, it generally covers all the 8 models in here, all the 4 models in here. So that's why as soon as the project one is distributed, is open at the week 3. Although I will open it at the week 2, I think, sometimes after we finalize the group in here. Okay, the grouping arrangement, I think it's already open in your Canvas, so you can start opening that thing in your modules in here. For example, right in here, you can go into this week 1, week 3 activities, for example, in here. Okay, then you can see in here that you have a grouping nomination online sheet. So whatever you can put in here later on, you read carefully. So you the order is that in the beginning you can put it in, then later me and Miss Chachi will have a look at the compositions. Okay, we will finalize the grouping arrangement depending on the track record and the potentials to complete the projects. Okay, so I think if after so far, is there any questions that you want to ask to me along these things? Okay, it's then in this week 7 or week 7 in here, or week 8 in the Canvas, then you need to put a project one submission, and then you also need to present on that project one. Then Another component that I start on putting for last year is the peer assessment. So even though you are doing it in a group, you will be asked to evaluate each other of your teammates. This is to make sure that whatever the final, and then there will be, based on that peer assessment, the value, the individual mark for each group will be normalized based on that peer assessment value. This is something to make the contributions from the group to be equal. So in order for us to avoid the contribution that are unequal in the past, where one group project just basically not doing anything and get the same mark with the other with the whole group, then that's not really fair. So if everybody contributing equally, they are all active, then everybody should get the same value for that particular group. Okay, so this peer assessment value will be applied also to project 1 and project 2. This will also something to be applied in the process plan design later on as well. Okay, so project 1 in here is heavily based on the MATLAB. Okay, because all the lectural materials in here is all based on the MATLAB. Okay, this may create a little bit of how to say that thing. You may find it a bit. I'm not sure whether you already get the MATLAB before or not. So has everybody here get MATLAB before or not? Clarence, have you get MATLAB before in your previous units? Okay, which unit is it before? May I know? Okay, so I suppose it's the same for everybody, isn't it? I just want to confirm with Taha. Taha, you also get MATLAB already, right? Action engineering, okay. Dr. Siti, so I think that should not be a bit. It should not be difficult for you, so you can scaffold on whatever that you have done. Okay, the project 2 in here will be on the Aspen HYSYS. Okay, now this is the weightage for the assessment. So for assignment 1, that will be 15%, assignment 2 15%, project 1 30%, project 2 40%. Okay, so project 1 that is based on the MATLAB, you can start looking at these definitions in here. You click on this one. This is project 1. Okay, I renewed again the project again in here. Okay, so if you click on here, you can see the one that I'm gonna give for this semesters is the project that comes from the new references. Okay, the new references in here is reference 7 and reference 8. So what I'm gonna ask you to do is basically to just take whatever has been given as an example. Okay, so we also give you the MATLAB code. So what you need to put is just put that MATLAB code into your MATLAB, just run it. Okay, but this will be the task. I want you to look back into that problem, introduce and understand what that problem is, and show your understanding on how how that problem is presented, and also what it is about, and then it falls within what is it? Is it within the steady state LAM model, within distributed LAM model, between dynamic LAM model, steady state distributed model, or dynamic distributed model, for example, and something like that. And then you also being asked to do a parametric studies. Okay, and then in here we want you to get a little bit deeper into the MATLAB code. So you go into the MATLAB code, try to understand with your friends with your group mates how that code working. That will eventually help you to get a bigger picture of how MATLAB code is working. Okay, and then the next one is the parametric studies, and you are being asked later on to basically find another example where you can use that particular code or that particular solver or that are being used in your task 1 in here. Okay, so the detail of all of this is being given in here. Now, since it is very important that as you can see that 30% and 40% in here are taken from the group project, so it's very important that you really try to be strategic with your group arrangement. Okay, and then why we put so much emphasis on the grouping, because in the future when you become a process engineer, or even if you become a researcher, one of the skills that will ensure your success is how you perform in the group work. Okay, and when you perform in the group works, you are challenged by the fact that you have to work with people with the different characters than you are. Okay, but you still need to execute your performance well, because that depending on what your boss or your manager assigned to you, you have to work, and you may not be able to work with somebody that has worked with you before. So situations in the real environment is quite non-ideal. So this is where the group projects are quite important, because you will get this kind of project again in your process plan design 1 and 2. So the minimum requirement to pass this unit is an aggregate mark of 50% or more. It must obtain at least 40% of the possible marks in the project. So these two projects. Okay, so these are the textbook that we incorporate in this unit. Are there any questions that you want to ask me so far on the unit outline before I go into this into the slides? Anybody? Any questions? James, Michael, Taha, Usman, Selena, Sakya, Tiffany? You guys need about two minutes or 3 minutes of break before I go into slides, or shall I just carry on? Do you want me to carry on for the slides, or want me to give you 2 weeks of break? 2 minutes of break. Sorry, 2 weeks of break. Minutes of break. So I just carry on again. Okay. If so, then I will just carry on. Okay. But I'll try to be a bit. I'll try to be descriptive in what I'm doing. But anything, if you are not really clear in anything, then don't hesitate to contact me, or to just pop up and just ask the questions. Okay. So as we can see in here, this is the slideshow. Let me start with the beginning. Okay. So this is the week 1 of the process modeling and optimization. So why bother to study this course? Like I told you again on unit outline, because this will provide you these skills of the derivations in phenomenological mathematical models. Okay, that is very useful for chemical engineering. And these are the things that you can gain from this course. So you will identify the key mathematical modeling concepts. You can explain processes and simulations in chemical engineering systems. You can formulate a mathematical model of steady state and dynamic chemical engineering systems in terms of algebraic or differential equations. So if the model comes with the steady state, then it means you will not have differential equations. But it doesn't have to be. I mean, steady state, you can also have a differential equations if that one is a distributed model. But if we are just talking about the LAM model, then if you have a steady state LAM model, you will have algebraic equations. If you have a dynamic LAM model, then you will have differential equations. Okay, and then in chemical engineering situations, normally the problem that you have in the real situations is almost all of them cannot be solved analytically. So even though it's important for us to be able to understand the analytical ways to solve a problem, it's also important for us to be able to use numerical methods to solve particular problems. Okay, so that's where here we come up with the computational tools. Okay, and this all I think has been covered already, but will be reiterated again in your process modeling. So these are the scope of this unit. Okay, we will deal with different types of model: energy and material balances, steady and transient system, distributed LAM parameter, numerical solutions, model simulation, model verification, calibration, and validation. Okay, and then a lot of different examples of mathematical models of chemical engineering systems. These are the lecture topics that I already go into in detail in your unit outline, so I will not go through it again in here. Okay, these are all taken from the lecture notes of Professor Bernd Nielsen in Lund Institute of Technology. So I developed this, I think, the first time in 2016, and I have been improving it continuously ever since. Now we have this 3-hour lecture. So if I'm not wrong, 2 hours lecture on Monday and then another 1 hour lecture on Thursday afternoon, if I'm not wrong. Your tutorial will start on the 2nd week. Okay. Assessment details are this one. Okay. Take a note again in here that your projects are the major component for this process modeling and optimization. So if we talk about the model, what does the model mean? So a model is a representation of your physical system or a processes or anything by mathematical equations. So models is basically an approximations of the process. So it can be an elaborate approximations. I mean something that is complicated, or it can be a simple approximation. So these are based on the conservation principle or transport phenomena, thermodynamics, and chemical reaction kinetics. Okay, so physics is again the underlying rule of this, the underlying concepts for all these chemical engineering. So I used to have a misconception, for example, when I was in high school. I think that chemical engineering is about chemistry, but that is a misconception, because when I go into my undergrad in chemical engineering, then I find that it is totally not a chemistry. So chemistry is only a superficial aspect of the chemical engineering, but most of the things that we do in chemical engineering, like how to approximate, how to size the reactor, how to calculate the time that is needed for the heat transfer, or how to measure the efficiency of the mass transfer, that is related with the physics principles. Okay, so that is what we are going back, is always going into the physics. So that is what model means. Simulations, on the other hand, is solving the model equations analytically or numerically. So the first part is that you have that process. Once you have that process, you formulate the mathematical equations that represent that process. Once you have that mathematical equations, you need to solve that mathematical equations to get a performance value, for example. Okay, that's why modeling and simulation comes hand in hand, because you need modeling, and then after that you need to simulate. That one is covered in both the project 1 and project 2. Here is the picture of the system. So depending on how you make the classification of the systems, you can have these two different classifications. So the first one is based on the thermodynamics. The second one is based on the number of the phases. And also model. In this particular unit, for example, we use the first two classifications in here. We are focusing more on the steady state versus dynamics and the lump versus distributed parameters. Now, theoretic models, if we go into the first principles, we can split the models into theoretical, empirical, and semi-empirical. So theoretical here is based on the fundamental principles. So when we are dealing with the transfer phenomena, for example, that will be a theoretical model. Okay, if you go into the real plan, and you are dealing with the plan operator or the plan manager that doesn't really care so much about the physics, but rather they just want to study the behavior of the data that they get from daily operations in the plant, then you are dealing with the empirical. Empirical in here is basically based on concern or verifiable by observation or experience. So it may or may not have with the correlations with the theoretical. In most cases it has, in some cases it's not. Okay, in the case where it is have a strong connections with the theoretical, then it becomes a semi-empirical. Okay, then I have gone before and explain to you what is this steady state and dynamic mean. Steady state meaning that no change in the process variables with time, but the dynamic, there is the process variables vary with time. Okay. Then the next question that you will ask is why we study the dynamic behavior? Because if you go into your intro, into your mass energy balances, everything is assumed to be steady state, but in the real situation, for example, when you want to start up your distillation column, when you want to shut down your distillation column, when you want to start up your reactor, or when you want to shut down your reactor, then before it goes into a steady state, then there will be a change in the behavior of particular operating variables with time. So that's why it is very important for you to go into the dynamic behavior. Okay, because in the dynamic behavior, you will study whether within that particular period of time when you start up or when you shut down, or when there is a disturbance. Let's say you cannot control the fit in that goes into your reservoir tank. You need to know whether that particular fit for example, at time equal 10 minutes, suddenly the fit is increased by 20%. You need to predict whether you will have a problem with that tank or not. For example, if that particular change is so big, then the liquid may go up so fast, and then there will be a liquid spill from that particular tank, and that cannot be avoided. For example, if you have a nasty component within that tank, if you have an acid, if you have a base or any component that can pollute your environment, that it's basically impossible. Okay, so the next one is the hierarchy for the systematic model building. So the first one is the problem definitions. You identify the controlling factors, you evaluate the problem data, you construct the model, solve the model, verify the solutions, validate the model. What is important in this particular flowchart is the iterative nature of the process. As you can see that this is not straight process. You cannot just go from 1 to 7 directly, but instead you have to basically, for example, for the 4 and the 5, after you solve the model, you need to reconstruct the model again. So, and then after the verify the solutions, then you solve the model again. There is a step where you basically keep on checking the steps back and forth again. After you validate the model, then you go back again to check whether that particular model is good enough for the particular problem that you want to assess. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to make a complex problem, okay, but rather that problem has to fit the level of the complexity where you want where you want to solve. So that goes back into how you basically what that problem is. If the problem can be solved using a simple problem, then you don't need to necessarily go into a complex problem. Okay, the ingredients of the process model. So this one is the assumption: the time, spatial characteristic, the flow conditions, the model equation, and characterizing variables. So if for that particular problem, you can just solve it without the need to take into account the variations in the temperature. Then you don't need to go into the spatial characteristics. Okay, you can just use a LAM model, for example, and then depending on what it is, if it is a dynamic model, then you need to have an initial condition, because initial condition here is imply a particular value for a property at time t equals 0. Okay, the boundary conditions is different things. The boundary condition here implies that you have a distributed models, meaning, for example, you have the temperature at the locations of x equals 0 and the temperature at the location of x equal L, for example. Okay, so that's what is implied by the boundary conditions. And also you need to also determine what you can specify about the parameters. Okay, so let's go a little bit into the example of the batch versus continuous. So the batch is the feedstock for each processing step are charged into the operation. I think all of you know what batch means is, right? So this is dynamic system because you can see that for example for the CSTR in here, at time t equals 0, you put in the 2 reactants in here, you stir, and then you close. And you have this concentration transmitter that will show you the change in the reactions of the reactant 1 and reactant 2 with time in here. Okay, and the variable that it's the concentration will definitely change with time. So this is why it's called a batch. Okay, and there is a variations on the batch operation. There is a feed batch operation, so one or more feedstock to a batch unit operation to be added during the batch, or it can be a semi-continuous. If it is semi-continuous, meaning some products are removed during the batch. Okay, so what are the examples of the process classification? So this one is, for example, for the continuous. Let's say that you have start up this plug flow reactor such that after you start up and then you let it stable for about 10 hours, then it will operate at a steady state. Okay, but of course the temperature when it is, despite the fact that it is already steady state, so the temperature at every position no longer change with time. We know that there is a variations in terms of the temperature at different position. So this is something that we call a distributed model, but it is a steady state distributed model. Okay, so this 3D plot in here is basically showing you the temperature at the different part of the reactor in here. Okay, so for example, we can see that at particular temperature, at particular time, at time equal 5 in here, then the temperature have reached steady state because there is no more much change with respect to the temperature. Okay, despite the variations in the temperature across the axial and the across the axial direction in here. Okay, so that is the thing that is important as well. Okay, so this is the definitions of the continuous. The continuous is involve continuous flow of materials from one processing unit to the next. So then my questions is that why you choose for a batch over the, in what circumstances a chemical engineering will choose batch process versus the continuous process? So this is the thing that I want to ask you. So I want to ask, for example, Juliana. So Juliana, are you there? So why, in what circumstances would you choose batch, for example, batch process over the continuous process? Any idea? So in what circumstances, for example, you would go with a chemical engineer will choose to use a batch process instead of the continuous process? It's okay, guys. I mean, anybody wants to try? Anybody wants to try? Then if that thing's get correctly, then I can give you a bonus. I can answer your questions. I can answer your difficult questions on your project, for example. Anybody wants to try? Why? Okay, good trial to allow the substance to reach the desired condition before undergoing other processes. Good trial, Clarence. It's close nearing the. Yes, correct. You see that is one correct answer. You see get a correct answer. Another answer. Yep, that's correct. Tiffany. Yep, correct. Taha. Correct. Another answer. Yes, correct. Another answer again. Small quantities are required. Batch-to-batch accountabilities are required. Need to produce multiple products using the same equipment, right? Need to produce. need to produce seasonal demand for product or seasonal demand for product or feedstock availability, for example. Okay, guys. I type it in here so everybody can see. Okay. So the first one is basically what is that that has been said by small quantities are required. So what you see said is small quantities are required. So it will not be effective to use a continuous product to continuous process if only small quantities of product are okay. The second one is to batch accountabilities are required. If you are dealing with the pharmaceutical products, for example, that needs a very strict specifications of the concentrations in that particular product, then batch process is the one that is needed. Okay, and then the next one will be seasonal demand for product or feedstock availability. So imagine if you if your product is not something that are made continuously in a year, okay, or the feedstock for that particular product is also not available in all year around, so you go with this batch process. The third one is need to produce multiple products using the same equipment. Say you are dealing with a small company that doesn't have a very high capital to be spent, then you will use a batch reactor. Okay. Then the fourth one is the very slow reactions. So it will not be efficient if you use continuous process. The last one is the high equipment falling. So these things are important. So when people ask you, you need to understand why chemical engineer prefer to use a batch over a continuous process. Okay. So well done, those that ask me that can answer this correctly. You can ask me something that is that you think is difficult in your project one, for example. I will set aside a time to help you on that particular questions. Okay. So now, this is what we go into the continuous operations. So even for the continuous operations, there are an example that it can vary. So there is a periodic and the periodic processes. So for example, when there is a variations in terms of the material or energy input streams, so some of the industrially important examples are the periodic adsorption and the periodic catalytic reaction. So I have given you an example in your module 1 in here that you need to check. Okay, if you go here, okay, I go here. These are an important process that I put in the videos in here. I will play it in here for you to review in here. This is the so-called pressure swing adsorption. So in this particular process, basically what happened is that the air is passed through these two columns, but they are operating periodically. So the first bed of the adsorption bed is operating first to absorb the oxygen. So you put in adsorbent into both compounds, okay? But we call it a pressure swing adsorption because the pressure in the first column is different with the pressure on the second column, and the pressure will vary depending on the mode where the bed 1 and the bed 2 operate on. Okay, you can see this one very clearly on this particular video if I play it now. So the input component is 79% of nitrogen, 21% of oxygen. The outlet is 99.5% of the nitrogen. So meaning something in here in the bed 1 is basically absorbing the oxygen, but letting go the nitrogen. Okay, so this is something that chemical engineers needs to know. So I can play this thing a little bit, and you can see in detail. You see that they start opening this valve, okay, and then you see that they have an animations where they basically this pressure keep on increasing. So this is the pressure in bed 1. This is the pressures on the bed 2. Okay, So you can see that they have not opened the outlet. They let some of it go, and then now they open the outlet. So this one goes up. Okay, nitrogen goes up. Okay, and then at some particular time, they will close this particular point in here. Okay, you can see the animations is good in here because this only the green. So the green one in here is indicating the nitrogen. Okay, the red one in here is indicating the oxygen compound in here. Okay, you can see, you can notice the pressures in here, the pressures in here. Okay, and every time that so this is now being closed. Okay, the pressure will be released slowly from the bed one. You can see the pressure is reduced. And then they play with the valve again in here. Then now, after the bed one is being operated, then the thing moves into the bed two now, right? So the bed two is being utilized where the bed one is being regenerated. So the oxygen will be taken out from here basically. Whatever the oxygen that has been absorbed in the bed one is being released into the bed from the bed one by releasing the pressures from the bed. Okay, so chemical engineers, I will not go and play this video in full now. I will just cut it in here because I need to move on. But I encourage you to look into this video by yourself and understand. And these things is very common in the real industrial processes because this PSA is something that has been used very often. Okay, so the next one that the process the thing that we're gonna use mainly in this particular unit and in particular in project 1 and project 2 is the Aspen HYSYS or Aspen Plus is going to be used in the process control and measurements. Okay, for the reason that I will mention to you yet tomorrow, and MATLAB. Why? Because MATLAB and the Aspen HYSYS, they allow you to simulate the process. Okay, with the MATLAB you can also build the model and solve it within that particular code. Okay, so these are the major reasons. It allows you to formulate and solve the material energy balances with phase and chemical equilibrium, chemical kinetics, and etc. Enable quick development of a base case design, which is verified against process and thermodynamic data. Allow rapid assessment of the economic potential for alternative design. Okay. Allow process evaluation to go beyond economics alone, controllability and operability. So if you ask me about the question, sir, in what situations we can do these things, I can refer you to a paper by your senior, for example. I can open it in here. Okay, that paper by your senior is I think he finished his bachelor at about 2017. Now I think he is working in Top Glove now. There are several papers that he did using the so-called Aspen HYSYS to. So this one is the thing that we call development of a techno-economic framework for natural gas dehydration via absorption using triethylene glycol. So your senior, Dr. Xavier, we call him Dr. Kong. He used an Aspen HYSYS to simulate all these particular configurations. Okay, and then we can predict the technical performance as well as the economic performance in here. So we can then select as a chemical engineer which among these three processes can technically perform to meet the requirements but give you the highest benefit in terms of the economical profit. So those are the things that are important for chemical engineers, because everything that you design, if it is not profitable, at the end of the day it will be useless. Okay, so it's very important for a chemical engineer to be able to go and use the Aspen HYSYS or Aspen Plus to simulate the process. Then, if you want to go into a special case of the reactor or special case of the sizing or the design, you can use the MATLAB to handle that particular process, to come up with the more detailed design, to come up with how you solve that particular problem. So that's why this MATLAB and Aspen HYSYS are the major components that are important both in the process modeling and process control. Okay. So in the next slide in here, I want to give you a bit of example into how people do a process design in the real conditions. Okay. So this process in here is called the synthesis of the toluene hydrodealkylation process. So this process in here, if I'm not wrong, is being done at a very high temperature of 600 degrees Celsius. Okay, it involves the toluene and benzene. So this process is what was used actively following World War II, because when a large quantities of toluene becomes available, so toluene was normally being used to generate TNT. You know TNT, right? TNT is an explosive material. Okay, so after the World War II, then the demand for the explosive materials has gone down. They don't need it for the war. So instead, they use it to produce benzene. So benzene in here is a precursor of cyclohexane, which people use to produce a nylon. Nylon is a well-known polymer material that people use a lot to fabricate a lot of plastics containers or something like that. Okay. There are two major reactions that occurs in this particular reactions. So you have the first reaction and the second reaction. The first reaction is this one. The second reaction is this one. And then we are given the chemical structure and also the melting points of these three main species. Okay, we know that at the room temperature, that benzene is basically a liquid, because the melting point implies the temperature at 1 atm where the solid becomes a liquid. Okay, so biphenyl in here is the form is a solid. Okay, because the melting point is 69.2 degrees Celsius. So these are something that chemical engineers need to know. Okay, we call it the alkylation process in here is because we are removing this alkyl or the methyl group from the toluene to produce a benzene. Okay. Now, the first step that a chemical engineer needs to have is the laboratory data. So we know that it is an irreversible reaction without catalyst between 1 to 100 until 1 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and we know that 75 mol% of toluene converted to benzene, and about 2 mol% of benzene from reaction 1 is converted to biphenyl. You have to make the mass balance. Okay, I will not cover in detail the mass balance process in here, but I think you can check one of the video that I posted into the week 1, where I discuss in detail about how we do this mass balance in here. So it is very important that we have a bigger picture of how you set up the boundary. So this one is the big boundary. This one is the most outer boundary that you have, that will give you a picture into what is in and what is out. This is something that you learn from your introductions to chemical engineering that you need to do in here. Okay, bear in mind that in test 1 later on, probably this mass balance will also be evaluated as well for in your test 1. So I need you to go back again and to familiarize yourself with the mass balance concept. Okay, then the next step in here, okay, that I want to go is what? The next consideration is that the exothermic reaction that we have in here will release large amount of heat, and thus we have the possible carbon deposition. So in order for us to suppress the carbon deposition, the hydrogen gas that we have at the outlet will be returned back to the inlet. Okay, not only just for the carbon deposition suppression as well, but because we cannot waste any materials, whatever we we have put into the system cannot just be thrown out like that. Okay, and since it is expensive to separate the methane from the hydrogen, then we will not bother to separate the methane from the hydrogen. Why? Why we say that separating the methane from the hydrogen is difficult? Because I think for gases, what you need to do is basically you need to work with several different possible ways of separating the components. Methane and hydrogens are gases, so the current technology that can be used to separate this methane and hydrogen is the membrane, because methane and hydrogen, they have a different kinetic diameters. Okay, so if you can fabricate a membrane that have an opening with the size between the size of the diameters of the methane and hydrogen, then it is possible for you to separate the hydrogen from methane. But separation by membrane is not something that is fully commercialized at the moment, and it is very expensive. The other alternative is using a pressure swing adsorption, but you need to have a material that preferentially absorb hydrogen or absorb methane over the other component, and that will not be that will not be cheap because of the need to use a pressure and to basically operate alternatively between different methods. Okay, the other alternative is that you can reduce the temperature of the methane and hydrogen such that they become a liquid. Then there will be a difference in terms of the boiling point between the methane and the hydrogen, but it will be very expensive to cool down the methane and hydrogen to very low temperature such that they become a liquid. Okay, so that that everybody hopefully can get my point in here. It's just not very cheap to separate the methane from hydrogen. So if that entails something that are very expensive, then we have to consider a cheaper alternative to make your process much more practical. Okay, and the unreacted toluene should not be wasted. So based on these considerations, then you will have something that is much more clear within your outer boundary. So clearly you have to basically recycle the hydrogen, but also you cannot separate the methane from the hydrogen, but instead you just recycle both of them back into your reactor. Likewise, your toluene should not be wasted, so you have to recycle it back again to your to the input of your reactor. Okay. Then the toluene recycle stream can be calculated given the 75% mole percent conversion and complete recovery. Okay. Then using an Aspen Plus, you can also calculate the reactions at 1268 degrees Fahrenheit and 494 psia. Okay, so if you get that thing figured out after you get the mass balance on the outside, get a little bit of more detail. The next one is the figuring out the separation operation. So first, you need to use a flash separator to separate the gas and liquid separation. And then for the liquid component, the easiest way that people use in industry is to use a distillation. Okay, so that means you figure out that you have one flash separator and 3 distillation column. Then, if I ask you from this particular point of time, how did you know which component separated which? Okay, it's very important that you go and go back into the boiling points again. Okay, if let's say we assume that all of this column operate at 1 atm pressure, then the answer will be quite straightforward. Okay, the first one that will come out is the most volatile component on the top, which is the gas. Then this will be a mixture of the 3 liquid. Okay, then the next volatile component will be the one with the lowest boiling point, which is your C6H6. So it will come out in here. Okay, on the third column, the next volatile component is the second one in here, that is to be recycled back into the inlet. Then it comes, the next one is this one, the C12H10 or the biphenyl. Okay, so then after you figure out the separation, then you need to go and go one step further again. You need to figure out the details surrounding the reaction operations. Now, The thing that is important in here is that you know the conditions, the pressure and the temperature of your inlet and the outlet, and the needed conditions for your reactor as well as your flash separator. One of the things that is important is that the flow can only come from the high pressure to the low pressure. So if your reactor has a very high pressure for 94 PA and your inlet has a lower pressure, then what you need to do is you need to increase the pressure. How did you increase the pressure? So let me ask you, for example, I go back, I go out first. For example, let me just pick Tiffany, how did I increase pressure in the process in the plant? How did I increase the pressure in the plant? What did I need to add on into the what kind of equipment will allow me to increase the pressure? How about UC? What kind of equipment will allow me to increase the pressure? Correct. Okay, correct. The compressor is for a gas, Tiffany. If you have a liquid, you need to use pump. Okay, so Tiffany, between the pump and the compressor, which one will be more expensive? To operate. Correct, correct. Why is that? Why the compressor is more expensive? Because of the sealing and also the more complicated part that you have within the compressor. Okay, so normally when we design something, we try to minimize the amount of the compressors as low as possible to decrease the cost. Okay, I think that has made my points. Okay, I'll go back again to this particular slides again. Okay, so now this is being clear again. So this is another layer of the detail that we add onto our design. Okay, that means we have this temperature change and the pressure change before the reactor. After the reactor, before it goes into the separator, and then also from the separator go back into the feed again, right? Then the next layer of the detail that we need to add again is the tax integration. So we need to look at the possibility of making our process much more cheap by exchanging the heat from the product stream with the heat to the reactant stream. Okay, so we can quench the product stream to 1150 degrees Celsius because we need to make the product become less hot before they go into the separation unit. Okay, then heat exchange between the hot product stream and the cold feed stream, because anyway the feed streams need to be heated, correct? But we can also utilize the hot product stream to heat up this feed stream, right? And then likewise we can also see that a portion of the vapor product is purged and another is recycled. Okay, everybody, you need to pay attention that even though the symbol in here looks like a pump, but in here is a compressor. Okay, because whatever that comes out from this is a vapor. So between vapor and liquid, we are using a different unit to increase the pressure. Okay. And we then use a gas fire furnace to heat the feed from heat exchanger to reactor temperature. So we expect that we will have a high pressure drop in this particular part because the materials need to be passed through the small tube, whereas in this particular part in here, the furnace will have a big diameter, so that we will expect it to have a lower pressure drop in here. Okay, so I think that will that will conclude my lecture one with you today, because I think I have been occupying for about one hour of your time. Actually, I want to continue again to show you a little bit into the process modeling, the stuff that being done by your senior, actually, that he has published in a journal called this journal, American Institute of Chemical Engineering Journal. So this one in here is actually, this two is your senior. Claudia Lee did her PhD with me. I think she finished her PhD, and now she is in National University of Singapore doing her postdoc. Jason is your senior. Not very long time ago. I think about 2 years ago. He has passed this process modeling as well, and has done. Is quite very good with MATLAB modeling. Okay. The two of them are the one that basically are doing this research stuff. Jason basically do all the coding using the MATLAB codes on this oxygen permeation simulation. But I think it is too heavy for me to do this for today, so I will just move it into the next lecture on Thursday. So I can go a little bit, I think, let's say 10 minutes or 15 minutes to describe you how we apply this process modeling into the real industry, especially into the research. Okay, then I think I will cut it for today. I just want to ask if you have any questions or anything that you would like to ask for today to me. Anybody? Everybody? Anupaja, you have any questions to me? Is it a good introductions, or it is too much for the first lecture, or how what do you think? How about Clarence? Clarence, you have any questions? James? Juliana? Chising? Are you guys still with me, or my first lecture already make you all so bored already? Huh? Michael? Taha? Usman? Selena? Sakya? Tiffany? You see? Wong Yo? Wei-Sing? There is no such thing, Clarence. I think it's based on the experience. I think it's really vary from case to case. Really, it's not something that you can tell. The more you try to design something, then you will know. But the best people to ask in here is actually your unit convener and lecturer. So later on, you can ask Dr. How when you do a process plan design with him. Which unit is it? Huh? I think it's not very efficient for me to continue again. I think, guys, it's lunchtime. I just want to cut it for now, and in the next semester, in the next meeting, we will start covering some part of the week 1 lecture, and also we will cover this a little bit into this. So I can convince you into why process modeling is important for research or for industrial applications, to understand how basically particular processes, whether it is a membrane or it is something, can be simulated and have a real relevance in the real world applications. Okay, so you don't just think that why we go into this kind of subject, we learn so much, we learn into the physics, but we cannot find any applications into this subject. So I don't want you to get unfavorable impressions like that. Okay. Other than that, then you guys can start on forming a group. try to communicate with each other. Go into the link in the week 3 module. Once it is finalized, then I can start on assigning the projects, and I will record. This session is recorded and it will be uploaded into your video, into your lecture week 1 canvas as well. Okay, if there is no questions from anybody, then it has been nice meeting you all, especially, and look forward to see you again tomorrow in a different unit, which is the process control. Okay, have a good afternoon, everybody, and take care.